In any sort of suspicious or unexpected death, you've likely become accustomed to there being an autopsy performed to help, figure out how it happened. After all, it happens in all of our favorite crime shows and movies, with the coroner being played by some sort of character actor, playing a pivotal role, filling in the missing details. It's rarely that simple, as you probably know, but you might be surprised to know autopsies don't happen nearly as often as they should here in Idaho. That's not all we learned from a report by the Office of Performance Evaluations. Back in February, they also found there's little direction for coroners on how they should do their job. And all of that is creating inconsistent death investigations across the state. But now a group of county coroners have a plan to fix the shortfalls, and it would include some help from Idaho lawmakers. Hunter Funk gives us a glimpse.
The numbers tell the story. Between 2018 and 2022, the report from the Office of Performance Evaluations found Idaho is the third lowest state when it comes to autopsies. 49% of child deaths from external or unknown causes were autopsied in Idaho, which is the lowest in the nation. 92% of homicides in Idaho were autopsied, also the lowest in the nation. National standards recommend at least 95%. The report also shows that Idaho coroners have no state-level entity for oversight. They rely on other coroners for help, which is where inconsistencies come into play.
Yes, there are problems. There's challenges as far as trying to build the correct system, make it better.
Bannock County Coroner Tori Danner is the first vice president of the Idaho State Association of County Coroners. He gave an overview of the report to the Joint Legislative Oversight Committee.
We want to make it so it's level across the board, that everybody's operating the same way. We're all investigating the same way. We all have similar education.
Danner says over the summer, he, along with legislators, met to address the issues found in the report. His biggest concern? Making sure every coroner keeps getting their certifications.
Because I believe that if you have higher education, you have higher ability to provide better services and care.
Another concern? How broad the Idaho code is. It doesn't define who should be certifying deaths between coroners and medical personnel. It also doesn't define the responsibilities of law enforcement and coroners in a death investigation. And it doesn't provide direction on what types of deaths should be autopsied, what information coroners can publicly disclose from death investigations, or how to address spiritual or religious objections to autopsies.
This is a larger problem that you can't control yourselves. These are constitutionally mandated positions, elected. And what you're trying to do, in my observation, is in an elected position, how do you at least create a credential to make sure people are qualified and appropriate?
It's why legislators are stepping in. Proposed legislation would require that coroners continue their education every 2 years, and classes would have to be approved. It looks to add several more circumstances in which deaths would be reported to coroners, like when a person was in good health within 36 hours, or when the death results from unknown causes. And it specifies that the coroner has jurisdiction over human remains. It's something Danner says will take time, but needs to be done.
That's the goal, is to get us back to where we need to be operating on a national standard. We want to be able to look at our citizens and our public and say, hey, we are offering the best that we can.
And the committee asked that the group of coroners come back with a dollar amount that the legislature would appropriate to make sure that they're adequately funded. And with education top of mind for Danner, now this would also allow that would help cover the educational requirements and that they be reimbursed for that.
Well, speaking of the educational requirements, it wasn't until 1986 that the coroner became an elected position here in Idaho. And looking at the qualifications to be elected to that, medical background does not include in that, but it does say you do have to go to coroner school within a year after being elected. So I assume paying for that is part of this.
Exactly, and that was part of the report, right, is the cost of things. The report showed that the median salary for the coroners in 2022 was nearly $18,000.
Wow.
So shows how big of a low budget would have. Yeah. It's the impact to adequately have the education, conduct those investigations, get hires. I mean, we know money talks, and that's a huge piece to this. So that's the next discussion.
Next discussion. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Hunter.